Let's get started. So we're gonna try to get everything moving and do some strengthening, targeting our hips, legs, all that good stuff. So come to laying on your back. Once you're laying on your back, just take your feet really wide apart to the sides of the mat and drop your knees a little bit one way and then the other way, just to kind of get things moving a little bit, kind of the quality of like a yawn. So you're stretching your arm and you're looking in the opposite direction as the legs are going in, trying to create kind of a thick quality. And then you're going to come back to the center, bring your feet a little bit closer together, and just rock your pelvis towards your belly button, kind of flattening through your lower back, and then returning back to neutral. So flattening a little bit through the lower back and returning. As you do that a couple times, you're just allowing as much movement there as possible. It's not a specific position, like not exactly imprint, it's a little bigger than that. And then you can start to take this into a roll up. So you're rolling your hips up off of the ground and then rolling down through the upper back, trying to use the time you have here to move through your spine, pressing the hips open at the top, shortening the distance between the ribs and the hips, and then rolling back down. And then we'll add some internal, external rotation of the legs. So bring your knees in towards each other as you roll up. Bring your knees out away from each other as you roll down. Do that a few times. So knees go towards each other, knees go away from each other. So you're getting a little bit more movement going in the hip joints. Rolling up and rolling down. And once more like that, and then we'll reverse the direction. So you'll separate the legs, turn the legs out, bring the legs in and roll down. Turn out, roll up, bring the knees towards each other, roll down. Do that a couple more times. Still that sort of yawn quality of movement, kind of thicker movement. And one more time. And come back to the center of all of this. And keep your feet wide apart, but take your feet a little bit away from you. Bring your left hand behind your head. You're going to be lifting the right leg up towards tabletop, but I want your leg to go across the midline. So if you're a little tight, you might feel a opening across the outside of the hip. So you're going to flex your upper body up and across, bring the knee across the midline and the elbow across the midline. And so the leg and the upper body are not staying on their own side. Slide up and across and lengthen back down. And lift your foot, come elbow to knee and lower down. Use your hand on the floor to help you. Up and across, lower down. Up and across, lower down. If you'd like to add a little more leg movement to this, cross the midline and then reach the leg out on the diagonal. So you're going away from the midline and towards the midline. Up and across, reach the leg out. Good. You're trying to internally rotate so you aren't parallel with your leg. You're turned inward. Your knee is going towards the midline, then your foot is going away from the midline versus it just being tabletop and then straight underneath you. And a couple more here. Up and across. Return, up and across, lengthen through. And last one. Set your hand down, set your head down, bring your knee back into tabletop, internally rotate, externally rotate. Internally rotate, externally rotate the femur, the thigh bone. So in and out, just kind of wobbling back and forth. And then start to take that into a circle. That is not how we normally circle. You're emphasizing the internal and external rotation. And reverse the circles. Or just circle if what I'm saying doesn't make sense. You're trying to rotate the femur in the hip socket. And then extend the other leg out to straight, your left leg out to straight. Bring the leg up, extend it towards straight as well. It doesn't have to be all the way straight. And then a parallel circle of the leg, circling the leg. Keep circling in this direction, but flex your foot. Reach through the heel and the back of the leg. Definitely a little more lengthening has to happen. And then reverse, first with the pointed foot. And flex the foot, keep going. And then bring that leg back to the center, bend the other leg in. Bring your hand back behind your head again. So left hand behind the head, right leg is in the air. Flex your upper body up to the center and reach your leg out directly underneath your sit bone. Bend your leg back in, lower your head down. Do that a couple times and then we're gonna add to this. So everything goes towards the foot, everything goes towards the head. Everything goes towards the foot, everything towards the head. And then you can start to make it more of a bicycling motion where you extend the leg up towards the ceiling, take it down, bend it in towards the head, towards the feet. Whatever you want to do with your ankle, you can flex or point, stabilizing through the torso. Trying to open up, kind of cycling through the hip joint. One more time. And extend that leg out long, bring both hands behind the head, flex your upper body up, and just bounce that leg almost like there's a ball underneath your leg, up and down, whatever height you can control. Flexing, kind of looking out over the leg, bouncing the leg up, down, up, down, up, down. Trying to stabilize your pelvis as much as you can. And then bring that leg back in. Right hand behind the head, left leg comes up to tabletop. You're gonna go across the midline with it bent and then set it back down nice and wide. And then you add your upper body, elbow and knee come towards each other. You're crossing the middle of the body, crossing over with the leg and with the upper body. Use the hand on the floor to help you. Kind of pushing into the floor. Yeah, nice. Keep going. And then we add the leg extending out away from the midline, bending in towards, away and towards. Good, feel like you're opening up the tissue of the back of the upper body as you flex forward, so you're creating length. Good. 2 more. And then bring that head down, bring the leg to tabletop. And start with internally and externally rotating the leg. So you're bringing the knee towards the midline and away. And then start to take that into a circle, emphasizing the knee in, the knee out, the knee in, the knee out. Yeah, so it's a messier circle than your regular circle. And then reverse. Just kind of moving through every little nook and cranny here of the hip joint. And then reach the leg up towards the ceiling. Flex your, straighten your leg as much as you can, toes pointed. And you can extend the other leg or keep it bent, whatever works for you. Circling across the midline, pointed foot. And circling, trying to keep your pelvis still. And flex your foot, continue. And reverse the direction, point your foot and circle. Yeah, that looks great. Try to make it as even as possible in all directions. And flex your foot, continue. And then bend your leg, bend the right leg into tabletop. To the floor. and the other one is tabletop. And then you're gonna flex up and look out over your foot, extend the leg, everything goes towards the feet, everything goes towards the head, flexing up as you reach through the leg, lowering down, flexing up, lowering down. Finding this kind of scooping feeling through the front of the hip. So as you bend in, you're kind of scooping around, creating more space in the front of the hip. And then start to add that extension, kind of bicycling of the leg. So the leg goes up, you reach it down, you bend it in as you lower down. Everything goes towards the foot, everything goes towards the head. Nice. And one more time, keep the leg out there long, bring your hand behind your head. So both hands are behind the head and just bounce the leg up and down, up and down, up and down, challenging your torso stability, trying to keep everything from tipping around. Bounce, 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 bounce. And then bend your leg back in and come over onto your hands and knees. Hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Shift your weight forward and back, just finding that kind of movement in the hip sockets and the shoulders. And then come to the center of all of this. And you're going to extend opposite arm and leg out and lift the opposite arm and leg up, keeping your pelvis and your spine in one long line. Just tap down and lift up a couple times, lowering down and lifting up. Super simple. And we're going to add to this. And tap down and lift up. Think of getting longer. You're balancing, I don't know, a tray of something on your back so that you're making sure that you don't spill it. And hold the arm and leg up. Circle the leg. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse your circles, trying to still up the movement through the rest of the body. And bring that arm and leg back down. Reach the other arm and leg out. Lift up and lengthen. Tap down and lift up. As you lower and lift, it shouldn't really change the torso. You're trying to keep the torso the same. Exactly. See if you can straighten your back leg a little bit more, everybody. Good. One more and you're gonna hold. Arm and leg is up. Circle the leg. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Reverse. 6. And then bringing that arm and leg back in. Go back to the first arm and leg, reaching out, floating it up. Bend underneath yourself, your arm and your leg in, so your elbow and knee are coming towards each other. You're rounding your back like cat back. Reach out to one long line. On your own timing, rounding your back, reaching out to one long line. Scoop in, pull in, and lengthen. Try to find the stability around the standing hip. So as you're doing this, you're not tipping around on your pelvis. You're pretty level still. That's better. And go a little bit more continuously. Bend in, reach out. Bend in, reach out to one long line. 2 more. One long line, bend in, hold in one long line. Stay there. You're gonna tip the whole shape like you're trying to bring your leg up and your hand down. Then tip the whole shape so your foot's going down and your hand's going up. So you're staying in that neutral, it's just tipping back and forth. It's kind of what happens when you lose the stability, but this time we're trying to do it. So you're letting yourself tip. One shoulder is lower than the other, it brings your hand down. Then you tip one side of the pelvis is lower than the other, it brings the foot down. Kind of teeter-totter feeling in the body. Should be driving this from that standing shoulder and standing hip. 2 more. And last one. And bring that arm and leg back in. Reach the other arm and leg out. Round your back as you pull your knee and your elbow towards each other. Stay level as you reach out. Round in, level, reach out. Pushing the floor away, connecting around the torso. Nice. Try to go for one long line versus extension. So you're going out into a big horizontal line. Feel like you're opening up the back of your leggings each time you stretch that leg out long. One more time. Reach out, hold. Tip the whole shape. So one shoulder gets lower and your hand goes down. Tip the whole shape. So one hip goes down or foot. Keeping the integrity of the back line and just tipping it back and forth through the standing hip and shoulder. Tip one way, tip the other. Two more. Last one. And bringing your arm and leg back in. Sit back towards your heels. Push yourself back into a little shell stretch, rounding through your spine. And then you're going to come to laying on your stomach. Separate your legs. Rotate them turned out. Yeah. And separate them about as wide as the mat. And bring your hands by your shoulders in that kind of W shape. Just start with lengthening your upper body, looking forward, lifting your upper back up. It doesn't have to be very far. So your bottom ribs will stay down, and then reach the crown of your head away from your feet. So it's kind of version of breaststroke prep. Lift your upper body up, take a breath, and then lengthen back down. So we're trying to move the part of the upper back and the neck that typically are going in the other direction. So our upper back usually rounds towards the back. We're trying to undo as much of that rounding towards the back as we can and round towards the, extend towards the back. Then bring your hands underneath your forehead. Reach out really long away from your feet, so much that your upper body floats off the floor into a low hover. Stay there and then lower back down. Do that a couple times. Float your upper body away from the floor, get long, long, long. And lower down. If you want to add to that, lift up and stay and bring one elbow back to the side like you're trying to tuck your elbow in behind you, opening across the collarbone, and then the other. So you're just holding this low hover position, bringing your elbow back, trying to connect a little bit more to the back of the shoulders. After you do a few, lower back down and do it again. Float up, elbow comes back. Tuck the elbow towards the side. One more each side. And then lower your upper body down. You can just rest your head on your hands. You're going to reach your legs so far out away from you that you create some connection through the back of the glutes. Float one leg off the floor, keeping the back of the hips working so the leg stays turned out, and then lower it back down. Do that again with the other leg alternating. It doesn't need to be high. You're trying to keep the leg turned out. So reach out so far away from yourself. One leg floats off the ground. If you can lift more than a couple inches, you may be turning your leg to parallel. So try to think less about up and more about long. That looks nice. Keep your glutes connected so you're staying turned out. Your heels are pointing towards the midline as much as they can the whole time. Reaching. Yeah, good. One more each side. And then we're gonna bring our hands back to that W position. You're gonna reach one arm forward Reach the arm around to the back, look towards it, and try to bring the back of your hand towards the opposite thigh. So you're trying to reach across. It's my left arm, I'm trying to reach my right thigh. Probably never gonna happen, but that's the goal. And reach forward, circle around, look towards it, and then start to pick up the pace. So it's kind of a half of a breaststroke. Reach forward, sweep it around, use the hand on the floor to lift yourself up a little more. So some of you have your arms forward like this. You're not able to get up off the ground. You've got to be in this like puma kind of push-pull position. Yeah. So start as you take it a little faster, you should feel how the opposite leg wants to sort of lift in that low hover we just practiced. Allow it to. Yeah, exactly. Sweep through the arm, lift. Sweep through the arm, lift. Sweep through the arm, lift. Nice. And then lower back down, shake your hips out a second. Keep your legs turned out, bend one leg like you're trying to touch the opposite glute, and then put your leg back down. And then like you're trying to kick yourself in the opposite butt cheek. Yeah, do that a couple times. Kick yourself towards the opposite butt cheek. And then we're gonna add this to our upper body that we just did. So one arm reaches forward, you sweep around, you try to touch the opposite foot. And reach forward, touch the opposite foot. It's okay if you don't literally touch it, but that's what you're reaching for. Reach to the opposite foot. Reach to the opposite foot. Nice. That looks great. Good. And circle around. And reach forward, circle around. And if you'd like to do one last part of this, either keep doing what you're doing or do one more. Sweep around, grab your foot, push your foot in your hand and your hand in your foot, and rock a little back and forth. It doesn't work if you let your foot collapse. So some of you, like Anna, push your foot as hard as you can, like you're trying to not let your hand, oh, it's got to be the opposite arm as foot. Yes. And now try to kick your foot back into your hand and you'll feel how that picks you up. If your foot is almost touching your butt cheek, it won't work. And then opposite arm is foot, second side. Last time, little rock roll. And then set yourself back down, push yourself back into a shell stretch. Push and round through the spine, take your spine into a big curve. Nice. And then we're gonna come down onto our forearms, elbows underneath the shoulders. If you have weights and you wanna put a weight behind your knee, you're welcome to, or a ball. And you're gonna lift your leg up as high as you can keep neutral. So try not to sink into your lower back. And then just tap your knee down and lift it back up a few times. Flex your foot to help you activate the back of the leg. And then try to get your hips a little more level. Yeah, that's good. Dina, lift your right hip a little bit. Yeah, so part of it is whichever leg you're standing on, you're trying to push the floor away with that hip so that the other leg stays level, the other side of the pelvis stays level. And then the other part is the abdominals, of course. Hold your leg up and do a little pulse up from right underneath the gluteal fold. Little pulse and pulse and pulse. Push up and up. And 6. And lower the leg back down. You're gonna lift your leg up about halfway. Turn your knee out to the side, turn your knee back down. Knee to the side, like dog on a fire hydrant kind of motion, knee towards the side, back. You have to kind of find that sweet spot for how high your foot needs to be and your knee needs to be in order for you to move. As your knee goes out to the side, it should feel like that standing hip has to work a little bit more. If your foot is too high, you'll feel like you can hardly move. So if I get up really high, I can't really go to the side. So you got to lower your foot down go out to the side. So it's a bigger sweeping motion. Three more. And then you're going to take it and move it into a big circle, combining both those planes of motion we were just working in. So sweeping the leg around, try to keep the pelvis still. And then reverse, circling your leg. 6. Last one. And then setting that leg down, shake it out, and we go to the other side. So lifting your leg up, keep it parallel, tap down, and press up. Tap, bend your knee, keep your knee bent the whole time. You're holding the weight behind the back of your knee if you're using a weight or a ball, whatever you have back there is fine. Soraya, keep your leg bent. Keep your knee bent the whole time, everybody. Long through the spine, trying to not collapse through the upper body. Nice. Hold the leg up and little pulses up, up, up. Trying to feel like you're stabilizing across the pelvis, pulling up on the abdominals. Little pulses from right under the glute. Good. And then bringing the leg down, you can bring it about halfway up or slightly up off the floor, and then try that turning out back down to the floor. Your knee points more out to the side, back to the floor. As you start to get tired, try not to let yourself shift forward, so you're almost like face planting into the floor. Keep pushing through the shoulders. Two more. And then circling your leg around. Combining all those planes. And reverse the direction. 6, 5, and bringing your leg back in. Sit back, take a stretch for 2 seconds. And then we're gonna come to laying on your side in one long line. Once you're laying on your side, move towards the front of your mat so you have extra mat space behind you. Stack your shoulders, your ribs, your hips. Feel like you're really long through the top side of the waist and the pelvis. So reaching through that top hip, and then lift and lower both legs at the same time. Reaching out and up and out and down. Of course, you could just do the top leg if you needed. Can you squeeze some part of your legs together? It doesn't matter to me if it's your feet, your inner thighs, whatever it is, something is touching along that midline. Nice. Good. Hold the legs up and do a little pulse of the legs, feeling like the top side of the waist is working. Legs are going up, down, up, down, up, down. If you don't need your hand on the floor, get rid of it. Nancy, you don't need it. I see you. Good. And then hold your legs up, one leg forward, one leg back, little scissor, trying to walk the legs equally and in opposite directions. The faster, the harder it is to stabilize, so don't let it be too slow and perfect. Let it challenge you a little bit in terms of the stability. Knees stay straight. 4, 3, 2, and last one. Lower the legs back down. Bend your knees in front of you. Take your arms forward. 90 degrees at the knees and the hips. Lift the top arm up to the ceiling. Rotate your torso open. Let yourself sink around into rotation. And as you exhale, sinking a little bit further, this should feel quite nice. And then use your abdominals to come all the way back to the start. Take your arm back out under your head, straighten your bottom leg. This top knee, you could set it on a block. It's a little bit too far down to set it down on the floor. So if this is uncomfortable, I don't have one near me, but put a block underneath your knee or the end of the foam roller. But if you can, prop your foot up on the floor and hold your knee up. It's a little bit more work. So there's like 6 inches or so between my knee and the floor. So lift and lower the bottom leg, keeping the bottom leg really straight. And once you get that lift lower going, start to take it into an oval shape. It's kind of a horizontal oval, skinny oval. That top hip should be working to keep your foot on the floor and stabilize you. Yeah, nice. Good. And then try to keep everything from moving around as you reverse so you're not wiggly. That's better. Four more. And then lower your leg down. Straighten both legs out. Start that lift of both legs and lift your head at the same time. And then let your feet kind of touch the floor as you side bend to come up. And then reach back out along the floor and lengthen back down. You've got to let your pelvis and knees turn a little bit up to the ceiling. So you start to come up in your side bend and then the pelvis drops back without just sitting on it, but dropping back a little bit. Yeah, Dana, point your knees more up to the ceiling and you'll be able to get up. Like that. Yes. And then lengthen back out. Good. So you're trying to slide. So even on your sticky mat, if you're using your abs, it should feel like you can not stick so much that you can't slide. Good. Good. If you want to add to this, when we get up into that top position, you can extend the back leg like teaser, half of a teaser, bend it in, slide back out. Lift yourself up, extend the back leg, bend it in, and slide yourself back out. You don't have to add all of this. Some of you have been coming a really long time, so I'm just continuing to add layers to this. But you can just go back to the basic, which was that side bend here, if it's not working for your space or for your body. Yeah. So pulling yourself up, extend your leg, bend it, slide out. Last one, use your abs, extend one or both legs, could lift, and then slide your way back out. Awesome. Let's bring yourself onto your knees and your hands on that same side, hand in line with your knees. Push yourself over into a big side bend. Stretch the side of your armpit, flat, open. Rotate a little bit to the floor and rotate a little to the ceiling and then set it down. Do that one more time, just balancing it out. So you get a little opening through the side of the body too. Good. And look underneath more, to the ceiling more. And then swing your legs around to the other side. You'll lay down on the second side with your body further forward on the mat. So you have mat behind you. And we start with just the legs reaching out, stacking and lifting both legs at the same time. So reaching out through the legs, trying to connect some part of the legs to each other. If you don't need your hand on the floor, then get rid of it. Reach out and up and out and down. That looks good. Yeah, nice, everyone. As your leg lifts, you're trying to not change your waist, so you're not sinking into the side of the waist to lift the legs. Nice. Trying to use that bottom inner thigh to kind of push the top leg up, and the top leg's drawing it up like it's a magnet or something. Nice. And then we're going to hold the legs up and little pulses up, up, up. Reaching through the legs, keep those ribs connected. And then holding the legs up, one leg forward, one leg back, scissoring or walking underneath yourself, trying to keep both legs straight. The bottom leg will really want to bend. So you're trying your best to move on that bottom hip. Scissor, scissor, scissor. Try to keep everything else still. 4, 3, 2, and last one. And then bend your knees in front of you. Take both arms forward. Reach the top arm up to the ceiling. Rotate your torso open. As you stay there and exhale and sink a little further, try to feel like you're reaching the back of your ribs or the back of your lung towards the floor. One more nice big exhale to sink a little further. And then on your next breath, come back up to where you started from. Take your arm back underneath your head. Your top leg can kind of stay where it is while the bottom leg stretches out underneath you. And start with just lifting and lowering. If you need that block under your knee, you can. And then once you get the lift lower happening, start to take it into a circle. Play around with your heel pointed more up towards the ceiling, or the toes pointed more up, or you being more parallel. Some of you are going to feel one of those options more than the other. I feel like it's often that if the heel is pointed up towards the ceiling, it feels a little easier, because then you can use some of your hamstring muscles versus it just being your inner thighs. So pick the one that works best for you. I think it's harder if your knee is pointed more forward, is what I'm saying. And then reverse, circling around. And then lowering yourself back down. Straighten both legs out on top of each other. Start with that lift of both legs and lift your upper body. And then you can start to tip your knees back. The back side of the pelvis tips back. You kind of drag your feet in. And then you slide back out. And if you're kind of crashing a little bit, try to think of your feet and your head going away from each other to create opposition and length. So I'm thinking feet away from head, feet away from head, feet away from head to slow down the descent, or else I just kind of topple over. Pull in. If you want to add that extension of the back leg, you can. Yeah, and as much as you can, think of drawing yourself up from the abdominals versus it being, you know, just you using your body weight. I'd say in every exercise, there's ways we can make it easier or harder without even changing the movement, with just using our body weight more efficiently or more to challenge us. Yeah, exactly. And a couple more. We did a bunch on the other side to figure it out. Extend, bend, slide your way back out. And draw yourself back up and in. That's getting there. Yeah, good. One more time. And lengthening back out. Bend your knees. Bring yourself up onto your hand. Do that side bend. Stretch your waist open. You can turn towards the floor. You can turn towards the ceiling. Whatever feels good to you. And one more time, pushing into your arm, big side bend over. And then setting yourself back down. So let's just start with this being an easier version of this so that everybody feels like they have something they can achieve well today. So bring your feet in line with your sit bones, lay on your back, and just press your hips up into your hip lift. Shoulder bridge. Stay there, lift one foot off the floor, set it back down, trying to keep the pelvis level. Lift the other foot off the floor, set it back down, do that once more each side. Yeah, if your feet are too close to your butt, I know that they teach that in yoga. It's for a different reason. If they're too close, it feels pretty easy to get off the floor. If you move your feet out away from you, so your feet are a little bit more underneath your knees when your hips are up, it's gonna be a little bit more work for you. If you'd like to add this and you don't have things going on with your hands or wrists, then come up into this like crab walk position. Otherwise, stay down on your back like you are. So then you're gonna press up and fingers will point out to the sides, or they could point forward and open up through the front of the hip and then hinge at the hips and lower back down. When you get up to the top position, try to find the distance so that your shins are more or less vertical and you're trying to open your hips as much as you can. Your upper back's kind of rounded like an ab prep so that you can look forward and then hinge back down. Do that a couple times. You can just keep going up and down from the glutes. Those will be the main muscles you'd feel pushing you up and down. Or you can stay up and try to lift one foot up to tabletop, set it back down in the same footprint. Try to keep the hips level as you lift the other leg, set it down, keep the hips level, lift, set it down, lift, set it down, lower your hips down. And we're gonna add to this, nobody has to add, and press yourself up. You're gonna lift your leg up, circle your leg around 4, 3, 2, get those hips up, and reverse 4, try to get your hips up, 3, 2, and 1. Set your foot down, other leg lifts up, circle the leg, 2, get your hips up, you're not in a low position, you're as high as possible, and reverse 4, 3, 2, and last one. Bring your leg in, set your hips back down, step your feet further forward, reach your arms forward, turn your palms out so your palms are facing away from your midline, and start to roll down. Take the arms overhead, turn the hands up towards the ceiling as you circle your arms around, roll up, turn the hands to face out, and roll down. Arms go overhead, circle the arms around. So we're just moving through different lines of the arms. If you want to straighten your legs and internally rotate, meaning toes and knees towards each other, you can as you come up. And then you roll down, you bend the knees, circle the arms around, reach to the legs so everything internally rotates, and roll back down. 2 more. If you can't roll all the way up and down, just doing this in the half roll back style. And last one. Stay over your legs and just do a little pulse forward. Not ballistic, just a little pulse. And then roll all the way back down. Great. Come over onto your forearms and your knees again. Whichever hand is closer to the camera, you're going to come up onto that hand. The other arm is the forearm, so it stays down. Cool. So now we're going to work the leg that's closer to the camera, the one that the hand is down. Lift your leg up. You're going to bend your knee and pull your knee towards your elbow and reach your leg back out. Yeah. Do that a couple times. You can side bend a little, like you're trying to crunch up that whole side of your waist and reach out. Crunch up that side of your waist and reach out. And pull in and reach out and pull it in And reach it out. Yeah, think of pushing something away from you. Pull in, press out. Pull in, press out. Good. And then hold that leg out there behind you. Your knee isn't pointed straight down or straight side. It's somewhere in the middle, comfortable range. And just a little reach, pulse up, up. Hopefully you feel the standing hip just as much as you're feeling the leg in the air. Little reach, up, 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 taking that into a circle. Trying to stay above hip height. And reverse your circle. And then bring that leg back in. So we're gonna do another circular motion with the leg. So your leg is in, it's gonna go out to the side, it's gonna reach back. In, you can round your back, out, and reach your spine long. Round your spine, circle the leg, reach out. Round, yeah, exactly, nice, Anna. And knee goes in, out, up, in, out, up, reverse the direction, in, around, lengthen, rounding more, extending more, rounding more, extending more. Last two, and last one. Hold there. If you can keep your leg up, see if you can take a little bit of weight out of that hand that's just on the hand. You can maybe come up onto your fingertips just for a moment. Find your balance. See if you can turn your pelvis more to the side, and you may be able to reach your arm overhead. You got to turn as much as possible to the side. Awesome. And then setting that back down. Sit back towards your heels, stretch back. And then it'll be our hand further away from the camera and our leg further away from the camera. If you go down onto the other forearm. So reach the leg out and just lift and lower that leg. Tap down and lift up. Nice. Lower and lift the leg. Keeping the torso the same, nice and lengthened. It should feel like a lot of the weight's in the pelvis, so there's not a lot of pressure down into the hands. Lower, lift. And hold the leg up, bring your knee towards your elbow and side bend a little bit and kick back out away. Side bend a little, kick back out away. Keep your spine lengthened, but you're curving, crunching up your t-shirt on the side you're going towards. So it's less of a cat back and more of a side bend. Yeah, exactly. Nice. And pull in and reach out and pull in and reach out. Hopefully you feel some hip work, not just me. Yes, okay, good. A couple of you winked at me. Yes. And then bring your knee in, out, up and back. In, out, up and back. Round your spine, lengthen your spine. Round, cat back, lengthen. Nice. Reverse, knee in and reach, and knee around and reach out. Yeah, nice. Last two. And last one, hold the leg up and back, and your knee is pointing kind of to the side and kind of to the floor. Little lift, pulses up high. Press, press. And circling your legs, 6, 5, keeping it high. Reverse, 6, 5. And then you're gonna lift your leg up, turn everything as much as you can to the side, come up onto your fingertips, and if you can, reach the top arm out long. Nicely. And then bringing everything back to the floor, sitting back towards your heels, stretch your hips back a second, rock your hips a little side to side. And then bring yourself forward onto your hands. Step your feet back into a plank. You can be a kneeling plank if you'd like, but some version of a plank. Stretching through the legs, connecting through the abdominals. Lift your hips and walk your hands towards your feet, curling the pelvis under a little bit. And then drop the back of the pelvis. Start to roll yourself up to standing. Once you're standing, we're gonna do standing thing here. So bring your hands back behind your head. Rotate your upper body over one thigh and bend your knees and round forward over one thigh. Shift your hips off center. So you're shifting your hips away from the leg that you're rounding over, and it should feel like it stretches out QL, lower back, hip, and then press yourself back up tall. So rotate over the other leg, bend your knees, shift a little off center, push the floor away, stand back up. Bring your feet no wider than like underneath your hips. Yeah, and rotate, flex forward. So you're in this kind of rounded position. Shift your hips one way, roll back up through your legs, rotate over the other side, flex, shift your hips, grow back up tall. One more time each way, flex over your leg, shift a little, find that place that feels good to stretch. Stay here on this side, whichever hand is more forward, take that arm down like you're trying to reach towards your foot and just do a little pulse. It's not a very big pulse, just to increase that opening through your back. And then push the floor away, grow tall again, rotate over the other leg, flex forward, round over the thigh, release the front arm, little pulse, pulse. Push the floor away, stand back up tall. Last thing, nod your chin, roll forward through your spine. Walk your hands forward until your knees can sit down on the ground. Step 1 foot forward, really far. Crawl your toes forward if you need to. Open up the back hip by lunging, pushing that back hip open. And now put your hands on your knees. Instead of just holding yourself up and kind of sinking into it, I want you to think of like you're arcing up and around, kind of a sphere shape. And then you're gonna just shift back again. And again, open your hip, pull yourself forward, up and around an imaginary sphere that's behind you. And then come back up, set your hands down, switch to the other leg. So sinking kind of forward into it, then pulling yourself up and around into a circular shape, and then just come back up to vertical out of it. One more time, shift yourself forward, pull yourself up and around. It should feel like it takes it more into the psoas and into the torso. And then coming back, set your leg back underneath you. Sit back, just bring your hands close-ish to your knees and push your hands into the floor and stretch the low spine open. Taking a few breaths. And then you can come up from there and you're all done. Good job. Thanks for coming.